Uh, it's Kate Stillman with Yoga Health Coaching, and I'm here with Dr. Marie Weinbrecht in Hamburg, and we're talking about what is changing, how the marketplace is changing, and niching's changing, and everything's changing, and it can be really freaking hard. It can be really, really hard to connect with the people that need you the most. So go ahead and describe what's going on and what's changed. I mean, you've been in YHC for a long time, and you have a PhD, and you've been coaching your Power Women group in Germany, and you're noticing now that like getting new clients is harder than it was. That's what we were just saying.
Yeah. So I am noticing that in my messaging, I'm not very clear, and I used to just write what I was interested in and write it like to myself, basically. And I'm noticing I need to have someone in mind who is like me 3 iterations ago, for example. And so I was thinking of, because 3 iterations ago, I mean, that's really hard for me to think, because I was, like, where do I go? Do I go in business, or do I go in wellness, or in spirituality? And however, I think I'm I'm still in the wellness niche. I tried to like go, I want to go to the business side, but it's not. No, it's so what came to me is like 3 iterations ago. I was a coach, a trainer, not a coach, more a trainer, working for big companies like automotive, and giving trainings about leadership, and being very, very stressed myself. And I was super high on adrenaline when I was giving presentations, and like I did a good job, but it wasn't sustainable. And so I'm thinking of that realm, because these people, like, and also where I did my systemic coach training, those people certainly need to learn a bit more about sustainable energy management and holistic time management and personal evolution. Like, who am I as a space holder? That's what came up for me. Like, because what I'm seeing, like the bit that I do see in my social media bubble, are space holders that are overwhelmed.
What I'm noticing more and more is that like becoming a good copywriter is important in entrepreneurship. It's a very hard thing to hire for. I've decided to train my whole team in it. I'm like, we're all going to learn it. Like, because anyone here who's communicating with anyone outside of here, right? Outside of team communications needs to understand how to write. Now, writing for the internet is really different than writing how we learned in school.
Yeah, sure.
And you're an academic. And from what I've learned I've been watching, this is actually, I would recommend you to do this as well, is University of Chicago has on YouTube has some, actually I'll pull up exactly what it's called, but they have some really great training, because they have to retrain people that are in more or less in like writing or journalism, or have some advanced degrees. They have to retrain them in how to write for work, like how to write and get paid, right? And that's essentially what you're doing. It's like marketing. If you're writing your own marketing, you're hiring yourself to write for marketing. Well, your company has to pay you for marketing, and it's just a very, very different skill set. So it's like know exactly whose problem you're solving, and what their hooks are, and what their vested interest in.
Yeah.
The other thing is noticing how people write on the web is really different, right? So it's like one thing that we use.
I've invested in like a lot of time. Actually, last year I went deep into copywriting, and also I'm using the Hemingway app to make it simple, and that's even in German. So I think the thing is that I don't know who I'm talking to.
Right. Or what problem you're solving particularly for them, and then it's like, and then the question is like, what's the hook?
Yeah. So I don't want to like steer you off the way you want to go, but I just wanted to say, like, I think I've learned to copyright in terms of like, it's not academic writing. I think I got that so far.
Yeah, I'm still gonna put this link in put this link in our show notes, and it's a leadership lab. I just want to make sure. So it's University of Chicago, you guys. The speakers, Larry McEnerney, McEnerney. I mean, as much as I've read and as many copywriting classes as I've taken and this and that, I was like blown away watching 2 hour and 15-minute lectures by him in terms of like how you use language can really just make a huge difference. So, okay, so now let's talk about what are, I mean, to me, it's like where I want to go with this, or like, what are the biggest problems that you solve, or the biggest benefits that people get from working with you?
To me, it comes down to energy management, self-navigation of energy, be it mental energy, be it body energy, be it time management.
Okay. And it's, and you said adrenaline addiction was where you were. Okay. Now, in terms of when you look at like the types of people that you've most enjoyed working with in the past, whether it's like a certain level of education, certain level of income, if you can niche down to that, like what does that look like?
So there's always been this one avatar who is like a high-level project manager in a bigger company, but running on stress.
Okay, great. I mean, and to me, this is where niching can be great. It's if you're like I help project managers with their own energy management. Like that's a niche.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
and then
yeah.
So if we even take project managers, there's if we take the niche of project managers, what are some of the different, because then there's like sub niches within niches, or how niches open up. So like there's the people that do project management certification trainings, right? Like lean. I was just actually on with Robin Holiday, her daughter Joey is in yoga health coaching, and Robin's was a really successful CEO in tech, and then went on and coached people in basically project managers. Like she used to certify project managers, but then she went in like coaching just in the field of project management, you know? And so it's like, it's a huge industry within itself. And there's obviously things that are like kind of close to project management or around project management, but might not be directly related, including all the people that are in charge of like the standard operating procedures for companies, where it's like a project's managed and then they need to record certain parts of it so that it's usable for later, right? Or it becomes part of the company's processes. So these are just different sectors of, again, industries within industries in a way. And what I could see with project management is there's deadlines, right? And that's part of the reason it's stressful. Okay.
But it's not that I have experience in that. It was just like someone who came. It's not that was me. So I did not do that. So I don't know so much about that. What got clear to me is that I want to speak to somehow, like as we were saying, like it needs to be someone who has money to some degree. So
yeah. So what's that baseline? I mean, this is where you want to get really niche specific. It's like people who are earning what level of income can you help? And if they're below that level of income, you can't. And if they're above that level of income, chances are they're not going to want to be in a group program or something else, some other time constraint.
So, yeah, perhaps around 80,000.
Okay, 80,000 euro.
To 200,000.
Okay, great, great. And then when they're coming in, what are their pain points? In their words, or where were you at? So you mentioned adrenaline, stress, and this is where, you know, using story is really important in all of it. It's like, what are the before and afters in terms of where people are starting and what benefits they get from working with you?
So the pain points would be, yeah, just this feeling, and I got into this feeling again like a few days ago, like a week ago or so. This rut of like where the body gets into this mode of, this is existential now, because this deadline or whatever, this thing is existential, and it's like a life threat. It's like the body goes into a survival mode, and it's just like you get this view and you're just taking something, whatever, to get to sleep, and then getting up in the morning feeling very groggy, but knowing you have to perform and have to perform well. And for women also, like worrying, oh, how do I look today? Do I look groggy? That's not good.
Right.
And a lot of judgment, like self-judgment, like, ooh, I don't look radiant today.
Yep.
Or not anymore, as I used to 10 years ago, something like that.
Not as easy to pull it off.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and also with food, that it becomes compulsive.
Yeah.
To like grab something to get more energy, and to notice that digestion goes off. And also,
so what I'm hearing there is like the old strategies aren't working, right? Like the things they used to do that could kind of work, the old strategies aren't working.
Yeah. And the women who were pulling it off in their 20s and maybe for the first half of the 30s, sort of like the boys, are suddenly noticing like, ooh, this is not working anymore.
I don't even like it, right? There's that part too.
Yeah.
It's like, these guys don't have it all figured out. Like, this is BS. Right? Like there's something being lost and going in.
Yeah.
And just totally going all in on working corporate, on the schedule, on the, what are the trade-offs, like the trade-offs, I'm questioning the trade-offs. So, I mean, this is my sense with niching. It's like you could say you're going from like a Facebook ad through a funnel, right? That's a typical way that people get new leads in this day and age who are at the point of paid traffic. Are those people looking there? Are they looking on LinkedIn, or are there other networks in Germany where people are advertising to, you know?
No, it's LinkedIn. It's I would say it's LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay. And you're mostly working with women, and women in this age category are in Facebook anyway. So it's like, so that'll work. So say you just really kind of wanted to experiment with, again, picking a niche can help. So say it is something specific around project management and projects being due, because that, I mean, every company has people running projects. So it's like, it could be, if you really think about it, it could be anyone that's running projects that may or may not associate with the word project manager. Right? And so it's like, I had to make up words like wellness pro. We made that up. That didn't exist. Now people are using it. That's great. Where it's like project manager like people know what that is and companies know what that is and they hire them. So there's that, but it might feel too niche exclusive. And you could maybe just do a tip sheet for like how to manage your energy while you manage your project deadlines. Something like that, right? And you could target it in all the branding, you know, and all the things that makes it into a thing. You could make it really targeted to women in their mid 40s to 60. Right? But you're targeting it to people who are working and who have jobs, because no one's going to print it who doesn't have a job managing a project.
No.
Now, you just gave a whole bunch of examples, and I want you to re-listen to them, and I want you to write them in, you know, more or less in story format. And so it's like, what's the hook? And this is where copywriting is really important. It's like, well, what's going to hook them in? Well, you have to have a good subject line or title or first line of a Facebook post. Right? And then what is the before and after? And it's either your story or someone else's story that you've worked with. Like this is where they were at, and then this is where they got to, and then here's the call to action. Now, how long that story is in an email, it could be a couple hundred words, or it could be, you know, even up to 300 words, 400 words. In an ad, it could be anywhere from 100 to 200 words. And it couldn't even be the same story written in a few different ways. And I'm finding doing the same thing on email as I am on social, like that's something that kind of makes it easier just to see, well, how does this do over here? How does it do over there? Keep thinking of like, this is the person I'm solving this problem for. And you just named 10 different problems.
Yeah.
Right? They're not looking as good. They're not feeling as good. They're not keeping up with the competition. The men's game isn't working and it doesn't have all the things in it that they thought it had in it. Old strategies are falling apart, particularly this one and that one, right? And then there's the like, a lot of people catch on in today's day and age of like, as soon as the last project's finished, the next one's starting. Like there's no downtime anymore.
Yeah.
You know? And so the more you get clear with all of these different pain points, they each have a story. And they each have a breakthrough. Great.
Okay, so now I get where you were pointing at with the copywriting. So it's really about writing the stories and sharing those stories, writing or telling, right?
It is, and it's the sense that like you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I like you because you know how to say it in the way that I'm feeling it, and you don't sound like everybody else. Like you have the insider scoop on this.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And would you think it's useful to talk to people, like to get voice of customer?
I would just tell stories like testimonials as some of those A to B type stories in those. But yeah, it's like, how are you going to I would try, you know, and not just through Facebook ads, but the point is like those different stories, when people check, this is the thing, is everyone checks you out on the web now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary. Like I was talking with someone, they're like, oh, well, I checked you out on the web before we arranged the meeting, you know, and it's like, oh, right. Like we all have digital avatars. So when you search yourself and you think of yourself as a middle-aged female project manager that's carrying an extra 20 pounds and has puffy eyes in the morning and doesn't want to keep doing this for wants her life back, like some semblance of this is not what I really wanted for myself right at this phase of my life. Like, how do I have more choices? Because I don't have the choices I want right now. You know, and so when she checks out your digital avatar, does it line up? And you want to see it through her eyes. You want to check your digital avatar through her eyes. So when you're on your Facebook page or your website or your IG account or your LinkedIn account, depending on, again, how they're going to find you or where they're going to look to see you, what are they gonna
Mhm.
what are they gonna see, and is it gonna land, and is it in their language where they're like, oh my gosh, she's so entertaining and she totally gets me.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think it's somehow it's working. Somehow some of it is working.
Yeah, yes, yes.
And I also see what is not working. So there's some, I mean, not that I shouldn't be funny, but there's some side of unprofessionalism that would not be so beneficial.
Okay.
I don't even really know how to pinpoint. Maybe it's also just a fear of mine that I'm being perceived as unprofessional.
Okay. The approachability is really important, and it's like this fine line with like how are you approachable? And I know there's a bit of difference too, like country by country, right? And so stuff that you could get away with in the United States, you probably can't get away with in Germany, right? So there's going to be that factor. And same thing with like stuff you can get away with Germany, you probably couldn't get away with in Japan. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
Just politeness and things are different. There's different cultures. So knowing what that is, but then I would just actually start networking, get in some project management groups on Facebook. And this is just such an easy way to check out a niche. It's just like join some project manager groups on Facebook and be like, hey, you guys, I help project managers manage their energy.
Yeah.
I would love if, I would love to just, if anyone's having trouble managing their energy, can we talk? Because I'm like really trying to understand, a few things, blah, 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 and you can just, or you can, it's like you want to do it really in a way that's conversational and not salesy.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even just say like, hey, I help project managers manage their energy to, because projects are, sometimes they're long and challenging, or sometimes they're tight and have intense deadlines. And I know this is a problem. Is this something anyone is currently challenged by, or currently wants to make progress on, currently wants, and just be like, just write yes or no in the comments. And then you're going to see if there's any response.
Yeah.
You're just like kind of testing. You're just sort of testing the waters with like, do you guys see this as a problem or not? Or you can even ask them for their advice and their tips, right? Hey, anyone who's, this is like, you're just in many ways just trying to like see what are they thinking about and how do they talk, and you're reading on their forums of like what they're talking about and what their issues are. And then that will give you, it's like every community has their own coded language.
Yeah, sure.
So the more you learn that coded language, then you'll be able to enter the conversation in a way that they get.
Yeah.
And then I would also look for like, who helps. I really like that we're focusing on project managers right now, but like, because it's so funny. It's like,
go there because actually I was like, I was looking for self-employed people who have own businesses and have a bit more money. I don't think project managers have so much money, honestly.
Okay, well, it might depend on like if you focused on like tech, lean companies, they might have more, right? But it could be anything. It could be anything with like getting projects done on time, like people that are super like just trying to accomplish. They're driving towards goals, right? But the whole idea of like managing a project or a company driving towards a SMART goal. How are you managing your energy while you manage the goal? It's a huge problem. Right? Is your team getting burnt out? So now you're talking to leaders.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But in any case, the same concepts are going to apply niche to niche. Right? So it doesn't matter which niche. It's like, what are the benefits? Okay. What's the hook? Okay. What's the before and after story, whether it's yours or it's a testimonial story from someone you worked with? What's the takeaway in terms of like, what can they take away from reading that communication that you sent out? whether it's a social media post or an email.
Yeah.
And then is that all in the coded language of the people that you're talking to?
Okay.
And where people get generic, right? Where it's like, does this sound like anybody else? That's where you're in the gray zone. You got to get out of the gray and get more into like black or white. It's either going to land for the person or it's not.
Yeah.
But does it land for the right person? Okay, now let's explore whether you want to work with people who are, I mean, again, contractors who are managing multiple projects, right? So they're self-employed and they're have this contract, and this is really common right now, right? Where you have like 5 contracts, you're working with 5 different companies. It's like, it's harder in many ways than working on 5 projects within the same company.
Yeah.
So then test that. And you just, it's, I mean, one of my marketing coaches, my first marketing coach, he's like, marketing's like this. Throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. If you're not willing to just keep throwing, and it changes constantly. So like, I mean, I was talking with Brett Larkin and that, and Katie in multiple conversations this past year, and they're both like, yeah, stuff that was working stopped working.
Okay.
And they may have spent $50,000, I mean, not in Katie's case, but maybe in Brett's case, like $50,000 developing a marketing funnel that works for 12 months and then stops.
Yeah.
And it just stops. And it's like, well, that's marketing. It's like marketing is you keep throwing spaghetti at the walls. I mean, we look at like week by week numbers so that we can have some indicators if something's going to stop working, that we don't have control over it, you know, whether it's going to stop working or not, because you can only tweak things so much before it's like you're just working against an algorithm. So it's making you try something new.
Yeah. And for me, it's really this realization, like, okay, I started like maybe 5 years ago. And back then, whenever I posted something, I got a lot of responses and everyone was like, yeah, and hey, and now it's like, oh, there's some old friends and maybe 2 other people who are like looking at it even. Yeah. So it's really changed. And I really see the need to get the message very, very, very clear.
Yes. Yeah, like the who you help with what.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that we see within, there's different types of Facebook groups, right? And so one of the rules of thumb when you're in someone else's Facebook group, right? So say you decided after this conversation to join 10 new Facebook groups that are where you think your leads are.
Yeah, that's a good homework.
Right. And then you think of like, okay, do you currently have a Facebook group?
An own group?
Your own group that's public, that's like, or sorry, that's private but not paid?
I don't even know. I think it's active, but it's not, no.
Okay. So there's a really good $5 book. Just Google clients and community and buy their $5 book, and they'll if you read the $5 book and you actually do everything, and then it'll show you how to run a Facebook group. But what I would also do is join a whole bunch of Facebook groups that are very active in Germany with where you think your target clients are, and then start reading and finding the coded language and posting and messaging and being helpful. And so every time you go into it, it's like, how can I be helpful? Not how can I gain clients, but like, how can I be helpful? And then what you're doing is, you know, it's like as you're generating little mini conversations in there, is you can move from, it's really natural to move from the thread to messenger.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's like, hey, this would be faster if we just spent 15 minutes online and I could point you to you know, and then you go to a phone call.
Yeah.
As far as having your own group, I mean, you can always revive a past group, right? So say you already have, you can rename it, you can put a new image on it, you can totally change the theme, the welcome post, the experience that people have. And that's a way of starting to control the conversation within your own group so that people build know, like, and trust. And I'm not sure, I mean, for someone who's just trying to get like 20 members a year, like you can easily use other people's Facebook groups.
Mhm.
right? Until you get a sense of like, wait, this is the conversation I want to have in my own group. These are the kind of lives I want to have. These are the kind of guests I want to have in here to bring their own community, you know, but you don't
Yeah.
have to do that. You can just go be useful and start connecting in someone else's
Yeah.
group.
I've been, I mean, I don't want to like analyze it's not important why I didn't do it. Anyway, I think I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I think you're on the right track with like people have a lot of projects to manage. There's a
Mhm.
lot, and they're not just project managers. They're small business owners. They're people that have five major clients. Those are each a project or two. They're, yeah, I mean, again, like leaders within companies, right? And they have to manage their energy along with their projects. So I think that kind of messaging is really good. I think it'll work well in Germany too, because management is a good word. That idea that this is something that you can control.
Exactly.
And giving them that control back. And so any of the little stories that you're writing, to me, it's like, what's the overarching theme? This project's out of control. This project is called Me and My Body and My Energy and My Life, and it's out of control. But I know how to manage a project.
Yeah.
So I'm going to manage this thing back into control. You know, like, does that feel good?
Yeah, totally. So that's also the threads I am noticing in the few German Facebook groups that I am. It's like, oh, help, I have this, who can help? And we need to fix this. And it's, yeah.
Okay, so the other message in there is like, you need to learn how to control this own project. Like you need to manage this as your own project. Like there's not a pill and a bill. There's not
Yes,
a
of course.
fix. So then
Yeah.
with your ideation around types of posts, and again, posting these different types of posts in different types of groups where there's already conversation. So you don't have to build engagement. You're going into groups and you're crafting posts to post in those groups. You're not just like random top of mind. Right?
Yeah.
Like they're good, engaging posts. And the purpose of a lot of the posts is just engagement. It's just that. It's just see if people will comment, like, share, talk about, ask questions on. And so you can end posts with a question.
Yeah.
Right? Make it really easy to respond. Make the post really, and this is where copywriting for web and the Hemingway app is so helpful. It's like, stay right between grade 3, grade 7, because it's scannable. And that's how people are not sitting down to read this like a novel in a quiet corner. They're driving their cars, they're on the train, they're moving, they're in the line at the grocery store. Like that's how people do this stuff. So you have to write that they can just be like, oh, this is engaging. I'm learning something. I'm getting an emotional connection. Yeah. And that's its own thing. And then just study how to write, what is it called? It's like conversational sales posting.
Okay.
Conversational marketing, conversational sales. That's basically what we're looking at, is it's conversational. And that's the key thing, is you're just engaging people in conversation. And then you are noticing what gets engagement, and you're tracking, these are the things that get engagement. And the more you track, they're recyclable. Right? Because then you can post that same post in that group over there, or your own group, or right? And that's where there's a lot of leverage in it. Once you get to like, oh, this is actually what's landing, then there's 5 variations off what's landing, where you're like, oh, this one was about controlling your sleep. Okay, well, now I'm going to take controlling your sleep and I'm going to break it into 5 parts. And you could even just take getting to sleep, like your bedtime routine, and then like falling asleep, and then waking up 2 hours after you fall asleep, and then there's like waking up too early, and then there's the groggy sleeping in, and like, you see what I mean? You took the same issue and then you just dial down into that. Managing your sleep for people who have too much to manage. Great. There's a post. That's a hook. Now go.
Yeah. This is really opening up some space, because I think I've been in the wrong Facebook groups, if at all.
Yeah.
I'm very reluctant to Facebook, and then I've been like in Ayurveda groups and spiritual groups, and Yeah, I'm gonna get in there.
Yeah, and then it's like anything, time block, schedule, and then have a to-do list. When that shows up in the calendar, these are the 5 things you got to do. You got to go in this group, either making posts, checking posts, engaging with posts, and just it's like anything. It's a habit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah, keep me posted. Let us know what's working and what's not working.
I will.
It's a changing world.
I will. Thank you so much.
Oh, so good to see you. See you. I hope to see you in Lisbon.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Okay, June 3rd to 5th. Woohoo! Okay, bye.